This episode of the Poundcast is in part brought to you by Louisville Vegan Jerky Company. They make Louisville Vegan Jerky. That's right. It's meatless, soy-based jerky, and you can find them at lvjco.com. And they have lots of different flavors you can choose from, such as buffalo hot wing, pepperoni pizza, smoky Carolina barbecue, and they have limited edition small batch flavors such as Nashville hot chicken, cheddar jalapeno popper, and honey glazed ham. And get this, 10% of sales of this flavor go to the Dare to Care Food Bank, which has been helping out families in Kentucky for the past 55 years. So if you order on the website and use the code word Poundcast, you get 20% off your order. Now, this stuff is bagged in the United States. It has a shelf life of 9 months, and you don't have to order it online. If you want to order it in person at stores, you can find it at places like Whole Foods and Sprouts. And just check out their website, lvjco.com. Once again, use the code word Poundcast and get 20% off your order. Welcome to the Poundcast. My name is Brent Weinbach, and I am a tongue man. You know, I use my tongue for a lot of things. I pick up food with my tongue. You know, I snatch things up. Snacks. I snatch them up like a lizard. I don't know if any of you have you've probably never seen that, unless you've hung out with me maybe. And even then, I'm fairly discreet about how I use my tongue in that way, but I used to be more open with it. I used to just snatch things with my tongue. You know, a little, say a peanut or something like that. I might just snatch that peanut with my tongue. And I do it so I don't have to touch the food. You know, say I think my fingers are dirty or something like that, or say I think that my... I don't whatever. I don't have anything to utensils or something that's you can't really use utensils for, but I don't want to touch it with my fingers. I'll just pick it up with my tongue. Or sometimes I used to do this. I used to use a utensil along with my tongue, and I'd kind of scoop things up with the help of a tongue and a utensil. And it was sort of a combination effort. And I used to do that with my tongue. I use my tongue for a lot of things. I pick things out of my teeth with my tongue. I don't know, I feel around my mouth with my tongue. I go into my throat. Sometimes I kind of go deep into my throat just to sort of feel what kind of crevices and lumps are going on, are happening inside my throat. To see if anything feels swollen and stuff. My tongue is a very important part of my body, and it's a very big tongue. Now, I know some of you have seen how big my tongue is, right? You've definitely seen how big my tongue is. It's big. I used to show it off, I don't show it off as much these days, but I might have one of the biggest tongues you've ever seen, okay? I mean, it's long. And not only is it long, I can make it wide also. And I almost think that my tongue is too big. In fact, I do think it's too big. And the reason I think it's too big is because, well, lately I have been chomping with my teeth. I don't know if I don't know what causes this for me, but I don't know if it's stress or what, but lately when I've been falling asleep, I'll chomp my teeth like this. I can't even do it. I can't act it out when I'm fully awake because it seems like it would hurt. But I'll just snap my teeth together just once, like a bear trap. When a bear trap gets triggered, I mean, it goes faster than that. It just snaps. It snaps like, just snaps like that. I'm not even giving you a good example. It's faster than that. It snaps really quickly. And I feel like if I put my foot in my mouth, and I've put my foot in my mouth before, I would be trapped. I would be able to, I would be trapped, and I would be able to make a rug out of my skin or something, and or maybe make myself for dinner or something like that. But that's obviously speaking in an abstract sense, I guess. But I snap my mouth together, my teeth. I tend to do it when I'm either falling asleep like this, if I'm sitting in a chair, and if I'm sitting in the chair and I fall asleep like this, I might just close. First of all, I'm a mouth open person to begin with, for the most part. I know people say mouth breathers. That's some sort of, I don't know, something that I guess dummies do or something like that. Well, I don't think of myself as a dummy, but I am a mouth breather, okay? I'm walking around like this, mouth open. But because I've been snapping my teeth together, I've been trying to keep my mouth closed so that it's already in a position where it won't be, won't snap or whatever, I notice that when I'm falling asleep, I will also do that, and I'm in bed. So if I'm laying straight in bed, just laying on my back, I do vampire style. I kind of cross my arms, and if I'm like that, I'll snap my teeth like that, falling asleep. It doesn't happen all the time, but I'll go through periods of where it will start happening. But if I lay on my side, and I kind of go, and if I kind of just put my cheek onto the pillow, it won't do it. I won't snap on that one. So that's a bit of an issue, and it's become an issue because I'm accidentally biting my tongue when I snap my teeth together because my tongue is so big. And I don't know. One time I fell asleep. I was just taking a nap. I was sitting on the couch, and I just sitting up, and I fell asleep, and then at one point I woke up to my tongue kind of stinging or something, kind of, and I had bitten my tongue. It was bleeding. There was blood. And that's when I started to get concerned, and I thought, I don't know, I might need, I got to watch out. I got to train myself to keep my mouth, I got to become a nose breather, I guess, so that my normal, because I can't snap my teeth if they're together like this. No, maybe I'll grind, but at least my tongue will be safe, I think, I hope. Anyway, I'm afraid of my tongue getting bitten off. Wouldn't that, I feel like as a tongue man that I need my tongue. I don't really feel like, first of all, if my tongue was bitten off, it wouldn't sound like me at all. It's just, that's not, I just feel like the new way of talking just wouldn't suit my brand. You know what I mean? I feel like, okay, this is me. This sounds like me. But if my tongue was cut off, I was trying to see what it sounds like if my tongue was cut off. And right now I'm putting my tongue on, I'm just kind of keeping my tongue on my mouth. I'm not using my tongue to speak. So I can't, there's certain letters that I can't really say without using your tongue. And so I just don't think it sounds like me. It sounds like a different person, I mean, this is what I would sound like with no tongue. And it just doesn't suit me. It doesn't sound like you're talking to me. I mean, it sounds like a different person, I feel like, right? So this isn't really me, but you know who it does sound like? It does sound a little bit like, it kind of sounds a little bit like Jonathan Ke Quan. He played Data in the Goonies, and he also was Short Round in the Temple of Doom. And, he has a new movie out called Love Hurts. or it wasn't new. I don't think it came out around Valentine's Day, but this sounds like him a little bit, and that made me think, is Ki Kwan? Does he have his whole tongue, or does I wonder what's going on with his tongue? He probably has the full tongue. I mean, he doesn't exactly sound like this, but he sounded a little bit like this. But this really just doesn't sound like me. And, but if he doesn't have his full tongue, I was wondering if he bit it off and maybe he had a big tongue like me. I don't know. Anyway, it just doesn't sound like me. This is the real me. And gosh, I think it would change my identity if I didn't have a tongue. Not only would I be scooping little bits and things up with my tongue, but I would also not sound anything like me. So I wonder what's the solution to this? How do I avoid biting my tongue? Okay, keep my mouth closed. But what else? Maybe get a tongue reduction? So I'm not losing the whole tongue, but I'm losing enough tongue where I'm not chomping down on it. But also I'm not, but it's not too small and still functional that I can make the sounds that I need to make. So I thought about it, and I wonder if they have that. I wonder if they have tongue reductions, and if maybe it's kind of like a breast reduction. I wonder if I can go into a plastic surgeon, or not a plastic, or just any doctor's office and say, but who deals with breasts maybe, and just say, so basically my breasts are in my mouth. What I mean by that is I have a long tongue. I want to get a reduction. Do people ever get penis reductions? That's a question too. Do people ever get penis reductions? Because I wonder if people's penises are too long and they have to get them shortened. Or if they're too wide. But I almost kind of wanted to get a breast. When I was in junior high, I almost became a woman, I think. My nipples were getting bigger than they should have been, I think. I had these, I think it was junior high. I think it was some sort of hormonal thing, but I started to have nipples that were, I feel they were starting to become bigger in a way that I was maybe going to have breasts at one point. And it went away eventually. But I think I started to have mini breasts, I think, in junior high maybe, because of some sort of hormonal shift. And it kind of played into, I think it was around that time was when I started, I wanted to be a woman around that time anyway, I think. Maybe it was some sort of, I was manifesting it because I kind of wanted to be a woman. I mean, you probably heard me talk about this in the past. I mean, but I would always pick, I wanted to be a woman, but okay, when playing a game, I would pick the female character because I wanted to be the woman. But, I don't think I wanted to be a woman all the time, though. I just wanted to be able to switch, like ram my half, I wanted to be a full woman, you know what I mean? With every full part of it, But, I think I wanted to be a woman more at that age, but the practicality of it is there's only certain instances in which I kind of would want to see what it was like to be a woman, but I don't want to be a full woman all the time, though, But I think probably anybody would want to be I'm surprised not more people are open with their desire to be a woman, to wanting to be a woman, that is. Because I think everyone wants to see what it's like to sort of be something else at one point, right? In fact, I think playing make-believe is why we do that, right? Or playing characters or doing acting jobs and stuff is we kind of like to do these things that aren't ourselves, I think, I think ultimately, though, what the real reason I wanted to be a woman, I think, at one point, and and I still in some ways feel this way, is I think when you desire something so much, you want to be it, and that is something that's the ultimate way to possess something, is to actually become it, or something like that. Or if you are attracted to a female body, the way to fully have it is to have it for yourself, or something like that, or something like that, and there's a TV show out recently that touched on this a little bit recently, and I just thought, when I saw this person talk about it in this TV show recently, I thought to myself, and some of you maybe watch the show and you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, whatever. But I thought to myself, yeah, that's old hat. I mean, I don't know. I think some people were talking about that scene thinking it was that was kind of a crazy scene, this person talking about this sort of feeling of wanting to be a woman. Now, by the way, if you know what I'm talking about, I didn't feel it in that. I didn't want to, I didn't, it wasn't to that extreme that I ever had those sort of thoughts, but I did think also to myself, yeah, this is old hat. I mean, this is old hat. Everybody wants to be a woman, even women want to be women. So, but I still think I have. I mean, I think one thing that is womanly about me is that I think I must be permanently pregnant. Reason being is, I think people when they are pregnant, when women are pregnant, they have this hyper sense of smell, it seems like. Or not just smell, but they also, and taste, or something like that. They're particularly sensitive to certain tastes and stuff. And my sister, for example, when she's pregnant, she's really sensitive to onions and garlic, and she avoids onions and garlic. I do that all the time because I have a strong sensitivity to that stuff, and I can't eat it. It makes me feel sick, and it stays on my body for 24 hours after I eat it. And my sister understands what I'm going through when she's pregnant. She feels she just totally gets it, and she never got it before that because she loves onions normally and garlic. But so it just made me think, well, maybe I've got, I don't have a baby inside of me, but I've definitely taken some major poos that have been huge. It felt like I gave birth, but I mean that's a feeling and observation I think many people have had before when they have big poos. But maybe I have qualities of a pregnant woman, is what I'm saying. I might be permanently pregnant in that way. That I'm not pregnant with something inside of me like that per se, but the characteristics that come with being a pregnant woman, that could be me. And so maybe my little, kind of my sort of plump nipples from, the past, maybe that's what they grew into, is it grew into an aversion to onions. So, and I have a pretty strong sense of smell also. I feel like I'm 20/20. I feel like my vision is maybe going, but I'm still 20/20 in my nostrils. I can smell every detail. I can smell every crevice of your bodies. So you watch out, and you better keep yourself clean when you're hanging around me, because I can smell it. All right, watch out. I got 20/20. And I smelled something the other day. I was at a comedy show, and actually I got to leave out details because I don't want this to get out. I don't want it to be too obvious about what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about. But there was a woman there, okay? And we were kind of standing around each other or whatever, and I smelled this fart smell. It smelled strong. It was a strong fart smell that all of a sudden appeared. And I thought to myself, here's what I thought. My initial thought was I wanted to tell the woman, that's not me. Just so you know, whatever that smell is, that's not me. I don't want you to think it's me. Okay? That was my initial thought. Because I didn't want her to think it was me. But then I thought, well, wait a second. What if it's her? So if I say it's her, then I'm going to, then she's going to feel awkward about that. So if I say, oh, that fart's not me, then, well, who else would it be? It would be hers, obviously, right? So then it makes her think, oh, I'm smelling her fart, and she's going to be embarrassed about that, or something like that. I just got a little distracted when I was saying that because it made me think of this other memory, which I'll get to in a second. But I guess what took place in what I'm telling you right now is what took place was something that comes from years of experience, I think. Anyway, I didn't mention the fart because I didn't want to make her feel weird if it was her fart. It could have been some random smell from somewhere else, maybe. But, I just thought of another memory. Okay, I'm going to get to this. But, so it could have been a random smell, but I thought the gentlemanly thing to do, and in fact, the chivalrous thing to do would be to not mention it at all. And even if that meant that she thought that I farted. That's why it's chivalry, I think, or whatever, or it's that's why I think it's a what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Divine, not divine, but it's virtuous. It's virtuous. I'm saying the virtuous thing that I did was I basically took the fart. I took the fall for the fart. I basically chose to allow her to maybe think that was me. If it wasn't either one of us, I let her think it was me over me, saying it wasn't me and possibly embarrassing her if it was her. You understand what I'm saying here? So anyway, I thought that was a pretty noble. That's the word I'm looking for. It was a noble thing for me to do. Is I took the blame for the fart. Possibly, unless she farted, then if she farted, then she doesn't know. Actually, she doesn't know either way, actually. No. If she farted, then she knows it wasn't me, and that's fine. If she farted, but if she didn't fart, then she probably thought it was me. And I saved her any kind of embarrassment, and that's a noble thing to do, I think. And I think I wonder if I would do that same thing if it was a man that I was standing next to. If it was a man, I probably would be, I don't know why it matters, but I guess it's just, I'm kind of old-fashioned in that way, I guess, where, I'll hold the door open I open the door for a woman, okay? I do that, all right? Maybe it's old-fashioned, but I open the door for a woman, and I also will take the blame of a fart for a woman. So I'm old-fashioned. But if there was a man there, I probably would have said, I said, by the way, I didn't, that's not me right now, that fart. And sorry, if it's you, I'm sorry. I don't mean to call you out or anything. I don't care anything. I just didn't want you to think it was me. And if it's yours, it's not a problem. I mean, I get it. We all fart. It's not a big deal, I don't know what I would say exactly, but I wouldn't say, I probably would have, I wouldn't have been so, I don't know, whatever, gentlemanly, I guess, or something. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? You know what? Maybe I got to start doing that. I got to start opening the door more for men. I open the door for elder men. If there's some elder men coming through, I'll open the door for them, But if there's a strong man, I'll let him open the door for me. You know what I mean? If you're looking swolled out, you got to treat me like a lady. Treat me like the lady I always wanted to be. So, okay, here's the memories that came to mind. So when I was 20 years old, I did the opposite of what I just described, and there was a girl around. So, I smelled a fart smell. I was standing next to this girl, and there was another guy around actually. So it wasn't exactly the same situation, but I didn't want anybody to know it was me who farted. So I said, it stinks. That wasn't me. In case anybody is thinking that wasn't me. I didn't fart. And then the guy he was a friend of mine. He said later it was obviously her, who farted, and apparently he said that she was blushing or something like that when I was saying that stuff. But I don't know if, but I didn't really think about it at the time. I kind of just didn't have that. See, I didn't have the life experience at that point to realize, oh, if I say that, whoever did actually fart is going to feel embarrassed about it. I had this one thought on a plane once where I thought it would be kind of funny or just interesting because sometimes you smell random farts on the plane, and one time I was on the plane and it smelled like a fart, and it was a pretty nasty smelling fart too. But I thought it would be kind of interesting if I or somebody else just said out loud, "Who farted?" They just say it out loud. I wonder how people would respond to it, and I thought it would be kind of cool. It'd be very comfortable and confident if somebody just turned around and said, "Oh, that was me. Sorry." Or something like that. If people just sort of came to terms with their, if someone was just sort of free and didn't really care and just came to terms with farting, that would be, I think we could live in a world like that where maybe it's not as embarrassing or something like that, I guess it's embarrassing, especially I guess women are sort of held in this sort of light where they're just, I don't know, supposed to be cleaner than men or something. And so if they smell, it just sort of seems, I don't know. It's kind of, it's messed up, but society has this expectation that women have to smell a certain way. I guess that's where this all comes from, I guess, right? It's messed up. I get it. It's messed up. Women should be able to smell just as bad as men, and they should be able to fart. Their fart should be just as nasty and just as sort of, just whatever, smell just as much like an animal died or whatever, Sometimes it does smell like that. It smells like sometimes it smells like garbage too. Compost, some vegans farts smell like that. I have one friend, I won't say his name, but you know him. It's not someone who used to host this podcast, in case you're wondering, but it's someone else, but you know him. And he used to have some serious garbage farts. When I say garbage farts, I mean it smelled like a garbage bag or something like that. And so the other thought that came to mind, memory that came to mind was it was kind of a twist on what I had first described. I was standing around and I was talking to somebody, and I think I met them for the first time, and it was a woman, and this was, I don't know, I was in my 30s at this time, and there was some fart smell that came up, and and I did say something about it. I'm trying to think of what I said exactly. I said, I'm trying to remember how I worded it, but I think I said, I just, in case you thought, I think we were talking and it stunk, right? And then I just had to bring it up, and I just said, "That's not me, by the way." Well, no, you know what it was? It was, we talked, and then we met up. We not met up, but we parted ways or something like that. And then we we're talking again at another point, and I said, by the way, earlier, I don't know if you smelled that smell, but that wasn't me. She goes, oh, I actually did think it was you. She thought it was me. So, and and she goes, and she even said, yeah, I was thinking, oh wow, he just cut a big one just now, or something like that. So it was kind of a good thing that I said something then, but yeah, I mean, if it was her who did it, that would have been, I would have made her feel embarrassed like that girl when I was 20. So that was an instance where I did say something and it worked out fine. And she even said, yeah, I thought, wow, that's a really interesting impression to make, just to fart like that because we had just met at that point. And it is a kind of an interesting way to meet somebody, is to just, unfortunately, I feel like even though it wasn't my fart, I think she still associated that smell with me because it was our first time meeting, I kind of talked about this before in the past, but how sometimes, I don't know if you've ever looked at a picture of somebody on, if you're looking at a picture of somebody and you fart, it might make you think that they farted. Or that they're the ones who smell. I've talked about that before, but it's kind of like that. It smells really, they say that smells, there's a strong correlation between your memory and smell and stuff. So, anyway, so yeah, that was a thing. But you know what? The opposite can be bad too. Sometimes when things that are meant to smell good are too strong, that can be bad too. And I'm talking specifically about cologne and perfume. Why do people do this? Because it just, have you ever given somebody a hug and then you smell like their perfume or your clothes? Say you're wearing a jacket, right? Something that you don't clean as often, and your jacket smells like their perfume, and you just gave them a friendly hug. And now you smell like that for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. What's going on with that? Why do they do that? Do people like the smell of perfume that much that they want it to smell like that all the time? I'm just not behind this. I'm not behind people having scents in that way. Now, people sometimes have a natural smell that smells good, but perfume and cologne is just too strong. I had some guys come into my home at one point, and one of them was wearing some kind of strong cologne, and it smelled like that for at least a couple days. And he was just in here. I didn't even hug the bloke. Why do they do this? They don't need to do this. It's totally unnecessary. All you need to do in order to have a good smell that is in the vein of perfume, I guess, is simply wash your hair with shampoo. That's a smell I like. It doesn't last it's not going to stay on your clothes. It's not too strong. And I love the smell of soap. Soap is the best smell. Okay. I don't want to smell whatever other stuff, especially if it's a fruity perfume, or if it's something that's maybe evokes something edible. I don't want that. I don't want to smell like fruit or food. I don't want food smells in the closet. But soap, that smells clean to me, and it smells good, especially good shampoo. You do a good shampoo on your hair, not a fruity shampoo, but just a regular flavor and a non-edible flavor. And then the hair will smell good. You will smell good. That's basically the best. That's all you need. So let's just do that, okay? Let's just use soap and shampoo and just do away with these perfumes. We don't need them. They're sickening, I think. Of course, this is coming from a guy with 20/20 smell. So, maybe this stuff is more, maybe I'm more sensitive to it because of my pregnant ways. But going back to when I was 20, and I said that thing, and in retrospect, I think maybe it would have been best to not call attention to the fart, But you know what? I was still a boy at that time. I wasn't a man yet. I wasn't. I wasn't confident in the ways of the real man who takes the blame for a fart. I was still a boy. I was still growing and probably not as confident. So, I think that I think there are times. So what I'm saying is I think that I could have done a better job with that girl, and I could have just not mentioned the fart, at all. Took the blame for it. And I think there's other times in the past that I feel like I do have there's choices I would have made differently if I was the age I am now, or I think. And something that I was thinking about is I used to work at this radio station, and it was a community radio station, and every holiday time there would be a holiday party. And at the holiday party, they would wrap these albums up, records and CDs. They'd wrap them up, and it was kind of like not exactly a white elephant thing, but it was sort of like that. But you got a gift. You got to pick one of the wrapped gifts, and you didn't know what it was going to be. And so after you unwrapped your gift from the radio station, you could maybe trade it with somebody if you didn't like what it was. And anyway, I got this album from this band Death Cab for Cutie. You probably heard of them. I think they became pretty famous. But at the time, they were a really new band, and the album, it was their first album, and it had just come out. It was a couple months old, or a few months old. And I think the band had only been around for less than a year or something, or a year. And so I'd never heard of the band before. And there was this guy who, he kind of looked like he was kind of a nerdy looking guy, and kind of a alternative nerdy, looking kind of guy. And he saw that I had the album, and he said, "Oh, that's a really good. Oh, you got a good one." And I said, "Oh, really? What is this?" And he says, "Oh, there's this really good band." And I said, "Oh, what? I don't know anything about them. What are they about?" And he said it's just he described it as really good indie rock, whatever that meant, to him or me. And I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, he's like, "Do you want to trade?" And I said, "Oh, well, you're kind of making me think I should keep this, He said, "Yeah, I mean, I was going to buy the album anyway myself, but I mean, yeah, that's a good one, And I said, yeah, by the way, this is in the 90s still, okay? This is 98, I think. And so it was, it's not like I don't know if he had heard, I think he had heard some of the album already, because maybe they had it at the radio station, but it's not like you could just listen to it on whatever, any of your devices that you use nowadays, Spotify or whatever, or YouTube. They didn't have that back then, right? So he was probably going to buy the album himself, but he was kind of hyping me up on it, making me think I should keep it, Meanwhile, he had this album that he didn't seem too pleased with. It was an African music album, and I don't know, it seemed like he wasn't really into that kind of thing. Now, me, on the other hand, I like African music, and I like world music in general. And I mean, I liked it back then. In fact, I probably liked world music back then more than I do now, in fact. Or at least, I didn't like it more then, but I listened to it more. So I thought I should probably, nowadays, I think to myself, why didn't you make the trade? But I guess he kind of hyped me up so much on the Death Cab for Cutie album, I thought, all right, I should keep this. I regret that. And by the way, I kept the album, and I no disrespect to the band, but it wasn't something that really particularly resonated with me, and I think I probably would have got along more with the African album, I think. So I regret that. I should have just nowadays, if I was in that same situation, I would have absolutely just made the trade. I mean, it would have been so much nicer to make his day by giving him the album the band he likes, and it's the album he wanted. And I could, even if he didn't have something that I liked, let's just say it was, I don't want to talk crap actually, but let's just say it was some kind of, I don't know, some sort of marijuana type band. You know what I mean? Some marijuana kind of ska kind of. I'm not saying ska is bad, but a kind of ska fusion kind of. I don't know, kind of. What kind of music am I talking about here? Ska, a kind of a skater ska, kind of rock, kind of marijuana fusion kind of band. Again, I'm sure there's maybe bands like that are good, but I'm just saying if there was something like that, and say it was something I didn't like or whatever, right? Or just say it was some sort of pop album, you know what I mean? It was whatever. It was just some mainstream thing, which they wouldn't have had that at that radio station. But anyway, say it was some sort of, let's just say it was marijuana skater fusion. Let's just say it was marijuana skater ska fusion. I would have made the trade because, well, who cares? You know what I mean? I think it was probably a selfish thing for me to keep that Death Cab for Cutie album when I didn't even know the band. I just was going off of him pumping it up, and it would have been a more fulfilling experience, I think, for me to make his day, So I guess what I'm saying is it's kind of like the fart situation in a way because I guess it's a selfish thing to do to say, "Oh, that wasn't me who farted." It's a generous thing to do to not say anything at all, I think, and just possibly take the fall for the fart. So I don't know. I think there's some kind of parallel, and that's why I brought it up. Okay, did I say that right? I said I think there's a parallel there. I think there's some sort of parallel there, and that's why I brought it up. Okay. Okay. So now back to smells and being close to people or whatever. Actually, let me see how much time I've been doing here. Okay. Actually, maybe I can wrap it up. Actually, Now I'll wrap it up in a little bit. Okay. When I get close to people, with a hug or whatever, I want to be. I'm hoping they don't have any cologne on them, right? Or whatever, because I know I'll smell like that for a little bit. And I guess that makes me wonder, well, okay, how often is this a problem? Well, yeah, I mean, ever since hugs became popular in the 90s, I feel like hugs became really popular and everyone started hugging in the 90s. But also, I guess if you're ballroom dancing, then that also, it becomes an issue too, And I don't know if you remember the time when people didn't hug all the time, but then in the 90s, something happened where people started hugging all the time. Am I wrong in that, or were hugs always popular? Because I just feel like hugs became this thing that everybody was doing, and I'm not really behind that, I'm not really behind. It feels a bit phony to me because hugs seem like something you should do when you really mean it, but just these kind of phony hugs where people hug, but they don't really know each other very well, or they don't really feel that strongly about each other. I don't know. When I hug something, I want it to be something that I want to really squeeze because I just feel a strong feeling towards it, I don't know. It just feels a little empty to me. It feels kind of casual, Everyone's doing casual hugs these days. I don't know. People are meeting each other on Craigslist to hug. You ever go on casual encounters? Craigslist? People are just going out there looking for somebody to hug or whatever. Well, yeah, you wouldn't have seen an ad like that on Craigslist in the 70s. Then again, the 70s were a pretty, a pretty, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. 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 amorous kind of decade, I feel like, in a way. So maybe people were hugging. Maybe in the 80s, things kind of cooled off a bit. And then the 90s was kind of a 70s revival, so that's when they started hugging again. People were hugging in the late 60s, I guess, because of all the flower power going around. But yeah, for somebody who doesn't hug a lot, ballroom dancing, it was pretty intense, okay? Because ballroom dancing, look, I took some ballroom dancing classes when I was in college. And actually, I did go in high school. I went to some dances. Slow dancing is so nuts, right? I remember I did slow dance. Where did I slow dance? Yeah, senior. I think at the homecoming dance senior year, my friend and I went to the dance, and at the end of the night, there were these two girls that we just somehow got paired. I don't know what happened, but it was the last song of the night. And look, I'm not a dancing kind of guy, but I just thought, but I do like cliches. So I wanted to just, for the cliche of it, just do some sort of slow dance with someone. And there just happened to be these two girls, and one for each of us. And so, yeah, we did the slow dance thing, and I thought, dang, this is kind of nuts. I'm just kind of all intimate with this girl all of a sudden. It's kind of crazy, actually. Your bodies are right next to each other, and you can feel the heat. Even though it's slow, it's hot. And I don't know, it's just kind of crazy, because how do you not get a boner from that, I think? It's just, I don't know, it's just sort of a very, it's kind of an intense, I mean, what you have to do is you have to kind of dance, and I experienced this when I did ballroom dancing. I just thought it'd be interesting to see what ballroom dancing was all about. But I remember I got paired up with this one girl. It was in college, and she was a very fully formed girl. I mean, she was what you call fully formed. And when you do certain dances, you got to get real close. And I was just feeling these fully formed parts against me, and I just thought the way that one has to dance, they have to kind of push their sort of hips away from the body of the other person, if you're a man, so that they can't, tell that there's parts of your body that are maybe sort of becoming aroused or something like that. You don't want them to know that. And so you have to kind of push your half of your body away from them. I mean, it's weird. You have to really kind of construe your body in a way that doesn't really, it isn't really comfortable, but you just don't want them to see what's going on. I guess, I don't know. Do people want, I guess the other person, I gotta interview somebody. I gotta ask someone at a school dance, does the girl want to know that something's happening to your body? That's the question I'm putting out to all you high school girls out there right now. Do you want, or college girls, do you want to know that something is happening to the guy's body? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see what we can do about it. Yeah, it's just a little bit, it's a little weird, You know what's crazy is, by the way, these dance experiences were not 20 years ago, but I was thinking that 20 years ago today was 2005, okay? And okay, that's, that doesn't seem that long ago to me or whatever. I mean, 2005, in 2005 I was kind of doing mostly what I do now, right? But okay, so that was 20 years ago. And then in 2002, okay, 20 years before that was 1982. That seems kind of nuts to me. I guess I'm thinking about this in terms of stand-up comedy, but if you were doing stand-up comedy in the early 1980s, and it was and it was the 2000s. Okay, I started doing stand-up comedy in the early 2000s, right? And so people who were doing comedy in the early 80s, to me, those were legends in my mind, okay? And so, but that was the same amount of time as 20 years ago. I was doing stand-up comedy. I was fully, actually, I was doing it full time at that point in 2005. I was doing stand-up comedy full time. So, I mean, okay, so that was 20 years ago. And I guess what I'm getting at is around the time I started, when I thought about comedians from, 20 years prior, it was definitely a different distance than it is now from today to 2005. And those people were people like Stephen Wright or I don't know, Robin Williams or whatever, Dana Carvey or legends, right? Just legendary comedians are who you think of. I don't know, Andrew Dice Clay or something, right? And now it's the same amount of time where I was at 2005. At that point, I was doing comedy full time. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not saying I'm not well known at all, but I must be some sort of legend at this point. I think anybody who was doing comedy, I mean, it's if I was thinking that people were legends, by the way, there were a lot of comedians who were not well known. Okay, I named a bunch of famous comedians just now, but there were people that weren't very well known, or maybe they were known in San Francisco or whatever, but they were from the 80s as comedians. But I thought of them as legends, even if they weren't well known. So what I'm trying to say is that if I was working as a comedian in the mid 2000s and now it's the mid 20s, then if somebody was starting comedy around right now, they must think that I'm some sort of legend. That's kind of crazy to me, because it doesn't feel that way, is what I'm really getting at. It feels like not that much time has gone by. It does not feel... To put myself in the frame of mind where the early 1980s, that's what it would be like right now for, people, I don't know, that's just crazy to me. The early 1980s seems like such a specific time that was so different than now or even the 2000s. And the mid 2000s seem not that different from now is the thing. And so, I don't know, it's crazy to be a legend these days. And look, I'm not the only legend. There's a lot of legends just like me. And it's just crazy to reach that legendary status. But I guess what I'm saying is that you are listening to a legend right now at this point. And in fact, you might be a legend in your own field. If you've been doing something for over 20 years, you just might be a legend. So that's something to think about. And you know what? Come to think of it, I think probably just about everybody listening to this has been doing something for at least 20 years, so pretty much everybody's a legend. I guess that's what I'm really getting at, is that everybody's a legend. We are all legends. And that's something to recognize, except for those high school girls. They're not quite legends yet. But you'll get there. A few more years, you'll be a legend too. But I think I'm going to wrap it up here at this point, I think. And I'm going to talk about, let's delve more into high school for the Unzipped. I'm going to delve a little more into high school and what was going on then. I think I'm going to delve into that. And if you want to join me as we go back to high school, you can carry on with me on the Patreon. It's patreon.com/Poundcast. And that's where we have our extended episodes, okay? We call them Unzipped. So I'm going to unzip and get more into high school. And yeah, it's a pretty good deal, I think. I mean, it's not that expensive. It really isn't. Well, you can decide on how expensive it is. You can make it expensive, and guess what? I don't mind if you make it expensive, but you can also make it affordable, I think. But also, hey, it's no big whoop. I mean, if you, I get people's, no pressure. I mean, there's a lot of funny stuff on the Unzipped, but hey, happy to have you anyway, though. Okay. But the episodes are mostly ad free there, and they come out a couple days earlier than the normal episodes. But yeah. Patreon.com/Poundcast. If you want to watch the show on video, YouTube.com/ThePoundcast is where to go. And yeah, some people just like that visual aid, so they can sort of see the face that is speaking to them, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what else to mention here. Thank you to Jack Birch for his help with, getting the episodes ready for you and stuff. And is there anything else? Oh, yeah, there's an Instagram account. It's The Poundcast, just like the YouTube channel, The Poundcast. And I think that's about it. My personal one is Brent Weinbach Comedy. Yeah, and there's some clips up on my thing and on the Poundcast Instagram account. And I think that's going to do it, for now. So thanks for joining me on this episode of the Poundcast. And I hope it was enlightening, and I hope it was entertaining in some way. And I think that's it. My name is Brent Weinbach. See you next week. Or I'll see you at the movies, meaning Unzipped. Bye.